Hey, I'm Ryan. This is my brother Daniel. This is Roles in the Family, and today we are reviewing Decrypto, a team versus team game of code breaking based on clever word associations.
And while it might not be the easiest party game to find the right group for, Decrypto has the potential to offer some of the most fun, escalating gameplay of any word party games we've played. And as always, we've got a link to Decrypto down below if you want to check it out for yourself after watching this review, but let's jump right into it.
In Decrypto, two teams are competing to give clever clues that allow their own team to guess a code while not giving away too much information to the opposing team. Each team has 4 secret words that will remain the same through the entire game, and each round, clue givers from each team will simultaneously come up with clues for a randomly drawn 3-digit code, where each of the digits corresponds to one of their team's words. It is important that the clues are clear enough for your own team to guess correctly, but obscure enough to prevent your opponents from intercepting the code.
Once the clue givers are finished, the clues are revealed to both teams. The clue giver's team needs to guess the code, but starting in round 2, the opposing team will also have the opportunity to try to intercept the code. If the clue giver's team is wrong, they take a miscommunication token. And if the opposing team's guess is correct, they take an intercept token. Rounds are repeated until either team loses due to miscommunicating twice, or wins due to intercepting twice.
The heart of Decrypto lies in the fact that your team is always cluing off of the same 4 words. Since the opposing team knows all of your past clues, you need to come at your words from different angles to obscure the associations with clues from earlier rounds. For example, if you use the clue gold for the word ring, you may not want to use the clue jewelry, as the other team may see the association between gold and jewelry. Perhaps a better clue would be boxing, which does not seem to be related to gold.
This dynamic only escalates as the game continues because you have accumulated more and more clues for your words. It becomes much harder to keep your opponents off your trail when you have already given 4 clues for a word and need to come up with another that they won't associate with that grouping of clues. However, since your team can see the 4 words, you have a lot of room to be vague. A clue doesn't need to be strongly related to the target word. The connection just has to make slightly more sense than the other 3 options.
On the flip side, whenever you hear your opponent's clues for the round, your team will start discussing how those might be associated with the clues they've used thus far. Sometimes you will think you've made a connection just to find that your guess is way off. But there are also huge aha moments when you suddenly realize the connection between a group of seemingly unrelated clues and become confident that you know one of the other team's words.
We have played Decrypto almost exclusively with 6 players, which feels like the perfect player count because it ensures that there are always 2 teammates that can discuss their team's clues each round without the group getting too big. Playing with 7 and 8 players shares this trait and also works well. Having uneven teams really isn't a problem. Fewer than 6 really loses some of the dynamic we enjoy with teammates discussing, because any team with only 2 players will never have that discussion among teammates for their own team's clues.
The retro code-breaking aesthetic of Decrypto is really nice, but it still is almost entirely an abstract experience. Other than the 4 random words, everything about the outcome of Decrypto is in the hands of the players, rewarding skillful misdirection and word association. As with most party games, the interaction here is high. The team versus team dynamic adds a nice feel of us versus them that comes alive with the code-breaking mechanisms. Setup is trivial as you just deal each team 4 random cards to slot in their display.
Decrypto has gained a reputation for being hard to teach, and we generally agree with that sentiment, at least compared to other party games. Part of that is due to a slightly confusing round sequence, but another thing that is hard for new players to understand is that it doesn't matter as much if the other team would guess the real word from your clue, but it matters more if they will associate your clue with the clues already given for that word. And given that slight missteps can quickly end the game, since only 2 miscommunications or intercepts are needed, there's risk that new players cause the game to end prematurely. It isn't a bad idea to be ready to play more than once in a row just to give new players the opportunity for the mechanisms to click for them.
And while each game of Decrypto is going to have a similar flow, it is amazing how much 4 random words paired with unique players injects a lot of variability into the experience. Decrypto is yet another word game that benefits greatly from the nuances and complexities of the English language.
One of our absolute favorite things about Decrypto is how every round escalates the tension from the previous round. The more clues that have been given for words, the more challenging it is to come up with new clues that strike that balance between helping your teammates and keeping the other team off your trail. With a good group that can keep the game going for 5 or more rounds, there is such a palpable excitement in the late rounds, often with players in disbelief that we managed to escape another round without the game ending. This also means that, if the game doesn't end prematurely, it is pretty much guaranteed to end on a high, and games that go many rounds can provide some of the most memorable sessions of all.
The core system of continually cluing the same words works so brilliantly within the context of the code-breaking mechanism. When giving the clues, you know exactly what information the other team has, which gives you a lot of room to be really clever. It isn't uncommon that a clue giver's clues are revealed and their teammates make comments like, "Wow, that was such a good clue." And it is music to your team's ears to hear the other team throw out comments like, "What? I thought for sure that clue fit here." And on the intercepting side, you really feel like you are slowly tracking down these never changing words as you gather more and more information, all while the intelligence on the other team is trying to thwart your efforts.
Another great aspect of Decrypto is how you are essentially playing 2 games at once. Where other games might assign one team as the clue givers and the other team as the code breakers, Decrypto lets you play both roles simultaneously. It is fun to try to ensure your team guesses the right code with as vague clues as possible. And trying to identify the code based on the very limited pool of 4 words is a fun little puzzle. But then you get to shift your discussion into intercept mode and try to find any leads in the list of clues the other team has given thus far. And unlike picking from your own team's 4 known words, your opponent's words could be anything, and it is up to you to try to narrow it down.
If a game ends in a tie, as it is possible for both teams to lose or win in the same round, you enter a fun final round where you actually try to guess the exact words of the opposing team. However, while this tie-breaking procedure doesn't happen very often, we have found that it is very fun to try to guess the words at the end of the game anyway. Even though one team has already won, having each team talk through their guesses always leads to laughter and fun discussion. The entire game has been a wall of secrecy up between teams, so it is fun to finally let it down and discuss what everyone was thinking and which clues had the biggest impact.
We talked about how the best games of Decrypto are the ones that keep going another round against all odds. And that is also what makes it so group dependent. The game has you on a razor's edge between miscommunicating and getting your code intercepted. If the group can walk that line effectively, the experience can be amazing, but it is also fragile, because if there are players that can't balance that well or simply make a mistake, the game can quickly come crashing down. We've had games of Decrypto that end in the second round and have us apologetically saying, that really wasn't a representative game. You'd really have to play it again to get a feel for what can make the game so fun.
And while Decrypto's feeling of escalating rounds is our favorite feature, it also comes with the side effect that it is really hard to predict how long the game will take to play. Game length can vary from 10 minutes for a quick dud to 30 minutes for an average session to an hour or more when players manage to force round after round. Fortunately, it is the longest games that are best, so players usually won't lament the playing time, but the unpredictability isn't helpful when you are trying to decide if you have enough time to play. And now let's get to our personal ratings for Decrypto.
Well, Ryan, we have another rare occasion of me being the definitive expert on this
Yes.
game. As
Always
I
have to
have,
call it out.
I always have to call
It's
it
always
out.
like one more play, too. It's never like a lot more.
I know, but yeah, so I am the one really bringing the expertise to this review today. But I'm going to be coming in for Decrypto with an 8.5. Which again for a party game is
High
quite
for a party
high. I
game.
mean, this is in my like top echelon of party games, and I think both of us we have so many because almost all of my games of Decrypto have most of them have been played
Yeah.
with you, and so we both share some incredible Decrypto memories. I mean, it's
Mhm.
even become now where whenever we have kind of our we're together around Christmas time. It's almost becoming a tradition now for like us kind of siblings and wives to
Get at
play
least
Decrypto
one
together.
game in. Yeah.
And maybe it's just it fits really well with our group, but I just feel like we have so many incredible games of it where you have that escalation of building and building and
Mhm.
build. I mean, I remember there was a play we had of it 4 years ago or something where it was just like, "Oh my goodness,
It's like, you gotta be
how
kidding.
are we still I think we got through,
It's
like, the
always
whole
funny
pad.
when a clue giver, it gets to your turn and you're like, "I thought there was no way I was gonna have
I
to give
wasn't
clues again
thinking. I wasn't
because."
thinking. I know. So, I would say the reason the crypto is so high for me is it delivers one of the highest, like, highs in a
Yeah,
party
the
game. Like, when
ceiling's
when
really
it's
high.
delivering the best of what it can offer, it is incredible. It is very challenging. This I mean it's you got to enjoy the kind of skill based
Sorry,
making.
something just, like, fell on the counter in the
Yeah,
background. I don't know if you heard that, but it scared
just
me.
Ryan.
Keep going.
We yeah, so it just that it really is a heavily skill based game. I mean, you got to be good at coming up with clues, and it's challenging, especially as it keeps escalating and escalating. And so it uh, but that escalation is just an incredible feeling in a party game, and then having that kind of uh, you're doing kind of two things where I just love that
Mhm.
like it's like okay you're focused on your clues and your team, but then now we totally switch and now we get back.
Yeah.
It's like you're figuring two things out at once,
And
which
each of them has, like, a win condition attached to it. Like, you could lose
yeah,
because you're doing a bad job with your, own game, or you could win because you do a good job of intercepting.
right. I think honestly the only thing holding Decrypto back is it just I found it is not the most accessible party game. And I've had maybe a couple plays of it where either maybe didn't have the right group or a game ends really early and it can definitely deliver that dud. And it's the
Mhm.
and what's also makes it even kind of compounds that is it can be like one person who really
Yeah, it's,
like
like, obvious
it's obvious
why it
who was
ended.
the person who tanked it for your team. That can happen, and that's not a fun feeling. And especially when a party game, you're typically maybe even more so than other games, really wanting everyone to have a fun experience. And so
Yeah, and
I
I
think,
think it's amplified by the team versus team because it's like
yeah,
this competitive, but you have people on your team. So if you're that person, you really feel like you let your team down.
yeah, yeah. So that like and yet it's like that's a negative and yet that's also part of what I love about Decrypto is just it's
Mhm.
competitive. It's and when you come up with an incredible clue, like the best moment in Decrypto is when maybe the other team's on to you. Like they
Yeah.
you can tell they maybe got it the last time and you give a clue and your team gets it and it throws them off and they're so you
Yeah.
hear them over there. What's just awesome is you can hear the other team and you hear them
Yeah.
over there being like, "What? How
We
is
thought
that not
yeah.
how is that not and you realize you threw them off. Incredible. So, the
Yeah, it's a great
crypto
feeling.
for party games, is one of my favorites, and when we can get that group together, I am always looking forward, to playing it. So, 8.5, Ryan, I'm curious for you, how where are you gonna be
Yeah.
coming in here?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it being in your top echelon of party games. I feel the same way. I have it at an 8 out of 10. Maybe I just have a lower ceiling for my
I
top
think
party games.
I give party games for me. I feel like are even just generally shifted
Just a
slightly
little
higher
bit
for you.
higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. An 8 out of 10, which is very, very strong. I love Decrypto. And, like you said, it's not a game that I have in my party game collection because, it's going to be so accessible to pull out in so many different situations. I have it because in the situations where I can pull it out with the right group, that ceiling of the experience is so high. And we talked about, we have some of these memories, these shared memories of really, really good games. I think we had one that went like 7 rounds, and it just is like, it's so
Incredible.
crazy because there's so many clues that have been given already. And so there's a little bit of when we're coming back, a year later to play it again. It's like, can we really live up to this now
Yeah.
idea of what we think Decrypto could be? But honestly, once you have a group that
Yeah.
is good at it and does that, it's pretty consistent. Like,
Mhm.
I don't think we've really had duds with that group.
Yeah.
Once we like got to the point where we feel like we all kind of like understand how to play it well. So that's a huge strength. I mean, like, it's not that the game is inconsistent, like in the experience it provides, because there's some games that are like that. We talk about that with a game
Right.
like Elder Horror, for example. It's like, well, sometimes with a great group, you might get like the randomness. But this is a game that it's more like the group is gonna determine kind of the swinginess of it. And so you just have to know that, like, are you going to have a group that, and like we said, it's really best 6, 7, 8. Like, you want to kind of be up in that higher. I could see people liking it at something like 4, but you really do lose a lot. It's like much more of a cerebral, like, because you're never talking.
You're not
you lose all the time.
anyone.
Yeah, you still get it when you're intercepting. You get to discuss, but
right.
But yeah, really best. We love it at 6, 7, 8. Works fine too. But yeah, it just has really, the more we've played it and the more we've added those types of experiences, I think the more both of us have realized, like, this game is like special. Like, there's a lot of party games that are like good. This is like, it like bumps up into this tier. Because there's a lot of word association.
Yeah, that's not
party
that's
games.
not a new thing.
Codenames is an example, and I know enjoyed Codenames more than you do, at least the original. But Decrypto, like, the ceiling is just higher, and like the way you're coming at it, it just I think it elevates it above.
It's because, at least for me, like when you're coming up with clues, the challenge of you can be vague because your teammates
there's only 4
words. Like, you can be, and sometimes I run with that way too far. I'm like the opening clue. My team misses
using
it.
a clue that no one would ever use to clue this word. But once your team starts thinking about it, it's like, well, it makes even less sense for these other things. So that's probably what they meant.
But then as the other team is on you, you can see what the other team has. You can see like the clues they have. But they don't have those 4 words in front of them. So can you give a clue that is for a different word, but looks like it's just off the clues for one word? That is so interesting.
The mental games of, we know you're trying to do that. And so there's times where it's like, man, this word goes really obviously with this other clue they gave. Would they really have done that if it was actually
I'm trying that
the
next
word?
Time. Obvious clues. Just
See, we're playing 4D chess now.
He would never do that.
Yeah. And I will say, to your point, they do a good job with the sheet of facilitating that, because whenever you write down the clues, whether it's your own or the other teams, there's a section at the bottom where you then write the clues that have been given for a specific word. So everybody can easily see, these are all the words that have been given for word 1, and this is all the ones. And that's so helpful, because either way, when you're giving clues or you're trying to intercept, those are the lists you're looking at, and it's like, okay, they've said these 3 things for word 2. You know what? Although it's hard sometimes because the codes are randomly drawn. So we've had games where, like, we're in round 4 and there hasn't even been a clue for one of the words because it always has been the other 3 digits, which is always funny, because it's like, well, it could go with this, Or it could be wild card door number 3 that we have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Which is also funny.
The last thing I'll say that is I think, and this is kind of maybe a thing just in general with word association games, is, you're trying to throw people off. You're trying to throw the other team off by using like very different things. But like any of these like games similar to this, if they can get the connection, they don't just have a general connection of like, okay, I think it's in this topic. Oftentimes when you're using like different different play on word of a single word, they've got it. And then suddenly, you feel when you're the clue giver on the other side and they've got it and they know exactly what your word is, that is incredibly difficult then, because you're just like, oh my gosh.
You get to a point where you're like, okay, because you can hear them. You're like, okay, we're pretty sure they know this. Let's just do a clue that we're for sure going to get it.
Oh,
and try to be really hard.
No, I just do the most random. I just do something that makes no sense.
Yeah,
then.
true.
No sense. I got a 1 in 4 chance of my team getting it.
It shifts the feeling a lot if you've already miscommunicated or not. Because if you haven't miscommunicated, you have a lot of room to be like, okay, they've intercepted once. It's better for me to risk miscommunicating rather than letting it be intercepted. So I do love how the dynamic shifts when you've gotten some of those tokens. So yeah, I feel like we're raving on it, and I guess we are. As far as party games go, there's not a lot, especially in this category of kind of word association, that are higher in our estimation. But ultimately, we want to help you decide, is Decrypto the right game for you?
If you don't enjoy word games, find it stressful to come up with clever clues, or won't be able to gather a group of at least 6 players that will enjoy this style of game, then Decrypto might not be a good pick.
But if you enjoy clever wordplay, like the feeling of working as a team to figure out clues, and want a game that can provide memorable sessions for a group that learns to play it well, we highly recommend checking out Decrypto.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to check out Decrypto for yourself, seems like one you might be interested in, we've got a link to it down below. And someone else who really likes Decrypto is actually my wife. She just did her top 10 games in this video right here. You can click on it and hear her thoughts on why this game is so great. And YouTube's got another video suggestion here, and we will see you in the next one.